Hey guys, welcome to another repot with me video. Well, actually it's a kind of a potting up with me video. Kind of ironic because I said I don't pot things up that often, but I guess I don't pot a lot of things up that often, but I have been propagating more than I've ever done in the past, so I just happen to have cuttings with enough roots like basically every week to plant them up. So here we go. Today's going to be a little bit different because I'm going to talk about some things that bother me, that annoy me, that flat out irritate me. The first thing I want to talk about is my feature plant in this video. As you can see, front and center is my watermelon peperomia, which has been a very highly sought after plant in Australia for months and months and months now. Everyone's been chasing it. If you want to buy it from a lot of places, it can be sort of around $30 for a small plant. I grabbed this guy from Bunnings one day when I was just wandering through. He was only like $16 or $17 or something, and he had very low variegation when I picked him up. You could barely tell that he was a watermelon peperomia just looking at him, but it said watermelon peperomia on the tag, and when I looked closely I could just see the beginnings of those little silvery stripe marks. And I tried to Google on my phone while I was there if there was a reason that it wouldn't have the really bright vibrant stripes, if there was a way to bring them back, and I couldn't find anything. So kind of thought about it for a bit, and I decided, because I really like my Polybotrea, like I like the shape of the leaves and I just like the way the plant grows, that I would be happy with this little guy even if he didn't get any more variegation on him over time. I'd just be happy because I like the plant. So I brought him home and I shared him on a bit of a forum, and a lot of people started saying that it had low variegation because it was tissue culture, and there's a lot of like negativity around tissue culture. And so I started thinking, oh, maybe I should just take it back because it's not gonna ever look like one of those perfect Instagram watermelon peperomias. Which was so dumb guys, because like I'd already decided myself on my own that even if it never got any more variegation, which it now has more than when I bought it, so it looks a lot stripier now, I decided that I was going to be happy with it. And then somebody else's opinion about basically tissue culture being a subpar plant kind of almost made me take the plant back. And I was like so disappointed in myself when I eventually came back around to realizing that someone else's opinion had really swayed my own. Because when it comes down to the reason I buy plants is to bring myself joy, and because I like the plant, it's not to get the perfect plant. No one's perfect, and I know some people like to have perfect plants and they like to buy rare ones and they like to buy ones that are specially grown under special conditions and blah blah blah. But I see a plant, I check its care requirements, because I've made that mistake with calatheas. Don't get me wrong, my calatheas are great now, but I do regret buying them initially, and I haven't bought any more since because they are high maintenance. Anyway, I check the care requirements, make sure that I'm going to be happy looking after it, and then I take it home because it doesn't really matter what anyone else thinks. I look at it every single day. No one else is sitting in my house looking at it. I have to like it enough to want to care for it, and that's all that matters. So I was just so annoyed by myself. Anyway, the end sort of message that I guess I have is that you get out of plants what you want, and don't let anyone else tell you that because they don't like a plant or they don't think a plant is that good, that it's not something you should be getting joy from. And when it comes down to it, tissue culture is one of the reasons that we have high availability and affordability when it comes to a lot of these plants. Like, a lot of them would be outside of a lot of people's price range, including mine, because there's still plants that are, you know, in the hundreds of dollars. And I already knew that I had a tissue culture Rhaphidophora tetrasperma, and I was perfectly happy with that because I know that I couldn't afford one that isn't tissue culture. They're a pretty expensive plant to get them, I guess, like an original plant. But I'm happy with him. He's doing great and I love the way he looks, and I'd rather have that tissue culture plant in my house than not have one at all. And that is kind of my option. And it kind of is my option with the watermelon peperomia too. And like wasn't even like I bought it specifically to have those amazing stripy leaves you see on Instagram. So who cares? I don't care. I really don't. And you know, if you wanted to learn more about tissue culture specifically, then I would recommend looking up the video done by Kaylee Ellen on YouTube. She's done a really good job of explaining the exact process, and it really kind of puts it into perspective that it's kind of just a different way of propagating when it comes down to it. It's not, you know, it's not something crazy and out of the ordinary, but it does tend to mean that if you get an abnormality in one batch, it's like 150 plants with an abnormality rather than, you know, 10 plants. So you can get sort of a bit wonky looking plants. Like I think my watermelon peperomia, although he's definitely getting more and more variegation, I don't know if he'll ever look like the really, really popular super stripy amazing Instagram plants. But he's doing his thing and he's happy and he's full and healthy, and I'm happy with him. So maybe he was a bit of a funky tissue culture batch, I don't know. I don't care either way because he is what he is and I'm happy with him, and that's all that really matters to me, and I don't care what anyone else thinks of him. And you know, the people online, they weren't nasty about it or anything, but you can just tell when you're in a few different forums that there's definitely a lot of people who think that tissue culture plant production is a bad thing and that they wouldn't want to own a plant that has been produced that way. For me though, again, it just comes down to making plants more affordable and more available for more people. And at the end of the day, all of these plants are non-natives. They're just house plants, so it's not like it's a big deal if we stray from the original plant. When it comes down to it, something like your Ficus elastica, your rubber plant, is very far from the original Indian rubber tree because it didn't make a good house plant. So, you know, it's not the same plant at all that was taken from the jungle either. Jungle, I don't know, wherever it normally grows. I think it grows in rainforests. And I just think, you know, everyone can have their own opinion, and that's great. But everything is fluid when it comes to plants, particularly when it comes to sort of variegated plants. You know, my Brazil plant has some pretty funky looking leaves on it, and you can find people online who will say things about, you know, the funky looking Brazils coming from a specific tissue culture line. When it comes down to it, natural variegation in nature, so plants that naturally occur as variegated plants, sometimes chuck out funky leaves too, and the variegation isn't necessarily even and perfect and whatever. It's all variable, guys. It's all variable. If houseplants make you happy, then that's the thing. If cuddling a dog makes you happy, get a dog and cuddle it. And as long as that makes the dog happy too, because, you know, some dogs don't really like being cuddled, but mine does, only for short periods of time, very short periods of time, and then she likes to try and put a toy in your hand to try and make you play with the toy. So, coming to an end of this little bit of a slight rant. I didn't realize it was just going to be on tissue culture, but there we go. I did know it was going to be mostly about my watermelon peperomia. So I guess that's it for today. I promise the next video is going to be on something different, something a bit more interesting. Maybe sort of make something with me. But for now, have a good one, guys. See ya.